I had a very near failure to my biggest success, as it turns out, and that was the business that I'm in, this wealth management firm. My partner and I were, I think, pretty smart and hardworking, but we really didn't have any mentors at the time that we started this thing, and we did pretty well, but then we did very lousy for a while too, and got better, but we started doing lousy again, and some of it was our doing and not being prepared for it, and some of it was just the market conditions at the time, and not being well capitalized. So we were fortunate enough to be able to borrow some money, but then it just got worse and worse. And I don't know if this would be something I would ever recommend to anybody that ever listens to this interview as far as how they do it. But both of us didn't tell our spouses a lot about it. We would say, yeah, it's tough, it's difficult. But I think if they would have known how horrible situation we were in, they probably would have said, pack it up, get out of here, and get a real job.
I think a
I
lot
think
of entrepreneurs could probably relate.
I think that's a lot of truth to it. Just hearing about other people and hear about what happened to Fred Smith at FedEx, of course, a whole lot different story.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to So What Success Stories. Today, I am super excited to be talking to my friend, Marty Kelman, who is the chairman and co-founder of Kelman-Lazarov Wealth Management Program. I met Marty, I don't know how many years ago it was. I was about to say a number, but I met Marty serving on the University of Memphis National Alumni Association board of directors. And I remember when he joined the board, and I remember when they gave his title, I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is great. This is great. But then I met Marty. I'm like, he is actually a very, very cool, fun, deep person. All those things. And I have since then, Marty, I've been very appreciative to have built a relationship with you and to really get to know you on a good personal level. And I'm really excited about sharing your story because you are an interesting guy. So let's get into it, Marty. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my gosh, where to start with that? So I, I am from Memphis. My parents, though, is probably where it's a good place to start. Both of my parents came from Poland, and both of them were survivors of the Holocaust from World War II. And they actually immigrated to the United States in 1949. I was born in 1951 with a lot longer name than Kelman. It was Kelman-Oski. And fortunately for me, they felt like it was wise to cut off a lot of letters that most people couldn't understand or spell. So, and probably including me too. And so I with they kind of came to Memphis. They were settled in north of downtown Memphis, and then kind of slowly but surely moved it over to the Valentine Evergreen neighborhood where I spent most of my childhood years. And I feel like I was very fortunate to be in a neighborhood that was mixed, very, very diversified, and very hell of diversity with a combination of Jews and Catholics, and some of these same refugees, like my parents, were in the general neighborhood too. So I had a synagogue in the neighborhood, but I had my public school, Valentine School. And then I kind of moved on to Snowden Junior High School and then on to Central High School after that. And so to me, it was like Americana, rode my bike to school, had a lot of friends in the neighborhood. But, again, with parents that come from the Holocaust, they didn't speak English very well. And they certainly didn't have the luxury of having an education like they wanted me to have, and my sister too, in the States. So they didn't understand anything about signing report cards or going to spaghetti dinners or anything like that was held at the school. But it was something for me. I guess I became sort of a parental figure for my parents. They were very wise people, but at the same time, it was a different culture
Sure.
for them. But they were, what was lucky for me, and I recognize it now for sure, is they were incredibly loving and giving. They were They didn't make a lot of money, but they did the old routine of putting money in a cookie jar, saving the money, and knowing that it would go towards education for college for my sister and myself.
And so, wow. And so you were married. Talk about that a little bit, and your son.
Of course. Well, let me kind of track towards that. After high school, I went to the University of Virginia. I was fortunate enough to get into there and had a lot of fun experiences over there. As I also fortunately was good, studied enough to get my degree. But I will say somewhere, that's why I guess it was after my sophomore year, I also, a friend of mine decided that he wanted me to go with him to hitchhike across the country. So we did that. We met in Charlottesville, Virginia. We stuck our thumbs out over there, and through about 8 days, we made it across the country. And it was a great experience to go through and meet different types of people, and fortunately not have anything happen
Right.
to us along the way. Um, but it's, to me, education is wonderful within an institution, but it's also, there's a lot of education that happened just being in college, meeting people, understanding the different types of people. Um, I'll tell you, one of the intriguing things was I ended up majoring in history, and one of the best classes, at least that woke me up a lot, was a Japanese American history class that I was fortunate enough to be only one of like 4 or 5 in the class. And what I found out about were the internment camps that the United States had in World War II, where they were interning Japanese families. Similar, I guess, to a concentration camp type of experience. They weren't really persecuted or anything like that. But again, they were taken away from their homes and their families and so forth like that. And it just woke me up to the importance of making sure that social just causes were important to deal with, and that everybody's in this thing together. And I realized that that's what I wanted my life to be, is to help others along the way. So again, did graduate from UVA, then I moved back to Memphis. And of course, had no idea. This is 1973, when there was a big recession going on. There weren't a lot of jobs related to a history major, but I was fortunate that I had worked at the Jewish Community Center in the summer times, and they just called out of the clear blue and said that we have a assistant athletic director's position. Would you like it? And I said, heck yeah. Didn't have to worry about asking whatever money it was, because that was the only job offer I was probably going to have at that time. So I came back to Memphis, of course, had that job and worked there for about a year, until I started realizing I was really enjoying talking to different types of people that were coming into the office. And that included people, younger kids, but also older people, like some of the adult volunteer coaches. And I just really enjoyed the broad spectrum of hearing different people's issues and so forth. So I decided that I was ready to go get a counseling degree. A master's in counseling is what I pursued at the University of Memphis at that time. And I also switched over to the Shelby County Penal Farm to get in one of their therapy programs they had for the prisoners at that time. So talk about being woken up, and talking about making me realize that I was as naive as anybody, I think, in the world at that time. And but at the same time, I learned a lot from that experience. Fortunately, moved on to another social services program that dealt with the busing situation here in Memphis. And I got to work along with 3 others in 16 public high schools. We established brotherhood clubs where you had black and white leaders, kids leaders that were at each school, so that if we could get them talking to each other, maybe they could get their friends. And it seemed to work real well. And at the same time, I finally realized, after about 4 years over there and becoming the program director of that I probably wanted to do something outside of social services. And I was very fortunate. I had some people that were on their board that were some leaders in the community, and they gave me some advice. And part of the advice was, maybe you ought to pursue an MBA. Of course, I had only one business class I took at UVA, economics course. I ended up going basically to get a BBA, then I got my MBA. And after a softball game, my future partner said, "What are you going to do now with your MBA?" And I said, "I'm not really sure. I was thinking maybe go work at FedEx or Holiday Inn, which was in the city at that time. I could be a financial analyst. Maybe I'll be a CFO someday, in sort of jest. And he says, why don't you become my partner? And that's how our company was formed. And then shortly after that, as you asked the question about getting married, I was fortunate enough that to meet a woman that I was married to for 43 years until her recent passing in October of 22. She was a fantastic woman, a tremendous psychologist, dealt with helped a lot of people with their family situations. And both of us had a good run with each other as we both got involved within the community. And
Wow.
of course, you're right. Then I had my son Alex in 1984, and now he's on to being a psychologist himself, and he's living out in California with his husband.
I love it. I love it, Marty. Okay, I can't wait to get into these questions.
All right.
I just learned so much already, right? So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success system. It is my belief that anyone, absolutely anyone, can be successful if they learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. They can achieve so a success, and that's success no matter what happens in life. And Marty, you just shared a lot in that short time, and I know even more of your journey, but you are certainly a success man. So talk to us a little bit about some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome to get to where you are today, and just how you've done it, just how you overcame those obstacles.
Well, I hate to consider my parents to be obstacles because they certainly were not in a lot of ways, but they didn't know a lot about providing me a certain pathway. But again, being very, very fortunate, they provided me love and kindness and understanding. And sometimes you just have to kind of, at least I told myself, is that maybe they won't provide something for me, but I should be able to figure that out myself and realize what was going on with other people. And I said, I should be able to do that, and kind of devoted myself towards that. The I had a very near failure to my biggest success, as it turns out, and that was the business that I'm in, this wealth management firm. My partner and I were, I think, pretty smart and hardworking, but we really didn't have any mentors at the time that we started this thing. And we did pretty well, but then we did very lousy for a while too. And got better, but we started doing lousy again. And some of it was our doing and not being prepared for it, and some of it was just the market conditions at the time, and not being well capitalized. So we were fortunate enough to be able to borrow some money, but then it just got worse and worse. And I don't know if this would be something I would ever recommend to anybody that ever listens to this interview as far as how they do it. But both of us didn't tell our spouses a lot about it. We would say, yeah, it's tough, it's difficult. But I think if they would have known how horrible situation we were in, they probably would have said, pack it up, get out of here, and get a real job.
I think a
I
lot
think
of entrepreneurs could probably relate.
I think that's a lot of truth to it. Just hearing about other people and hear about what happened to Fred Smith at FedEx, of course, a whole lot different story. And others, I mean, things happen along the way. But again, I think it was just plain persistence and focus, and we're going to make this successful. Um, Allowed us to kind of overcome a lot. And I realized that there's a lot of stress that gets involved with that, which is not great for family to have to deal with. But both Dale and Alex and I have talked about that a lot over the subsequent years, and maybe they might have recommended that that didn't take it on quite as privately as I did, but they're also very appreciative to it too. But I think the bottom line is that sometimes when you realize that things are difficult and tough, that you just have to realize you're the one that has to do it. And you just think about all that you learn as much as you can. I remember just reading, going to conferences, talking to a bunch of different people that were in similar fields, and just trying to absorb every bit of knowledge I could possibly find from those people who were more successful than we were at that time. And that was my focus, along with my partner, Ron. And we finally turned it around and did become successful. And now we're very proud of a company that's hires 15 employees, and we service our clientele, and we are also very involved in the community too.
I love it. Talk a little bit about your involvement in the community before I go to the next question, because I know that that's a very big part of who you are, and even hearing you talk about your journey, it connected some dots for me on some of the specific community work you do. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, uh, I've always had something, I guess we'll try to think of purpose of life, I guess. And it was very easy for me to think that whenever my passing takes place, when I die, that I'd at least hope that I could have made this world a better place. And it was easy for me for that to be my objective, my focus. And so just realized that, part of it was with my business was certainly to be successful, make some money with that. But I really knew that the important thing was to be involved within the community. I thought about what my parents had to go through. I never wanted anybody else to ever have to go through what they went through, which includes people all over the world. You've heard of genocides and terrible things that have taken place in lots of different places and in the United States, of course, too. So I just got involved with different organizations. And one of them that I got on early on was just my son's school, which I became for 12 years. He went to Lausanne Collegiate School. I got on the executive committee. I was president for a few of those years. And even after he graduated, after taking a hiatus for a couple of years, they asked me to come back. So I ended up being 17 years on that board. And it's like every year, I just was always trying to figure out how to make it better. And one of the things I was able to do with really the fortune of my next door neighbors, I don't know if you know Stanley and Stephanie Dowell, African-American couple. They're very involved in the community. And I really wanted more diversity at a private school. And fortunately, with their help, when they were trying to figure out where to send their son, I convinced them as much as I could to send him to Lausanne, and convinced them not only send their son, but have their friends start meeting with us, to the point we really had a nucleus of some of their friends. And now Lausanne has become one of the most has more diversity probably than any private school, in my opinion, maybe the country. I don't really know that, but I know the school itself is very proud of it, and I know I'm extremely proud of it to see something like that too. So that's one community organization. But I also got involved with Leadership Memphis, which is also another great place to meet other people who want to do good things within the community. And of course, you and I met at the University of Memphis Alumni Board, which I'm really happy to be part of, because I think that school, university, if the University of Memphis is successful, then our city of Memphis will also be successful too. I know that means a lot. And fortunately, as you know, we know some of the leaders of that of our university, and they've hired some great people recently. I don't know if you've met any of them, but a lot of people are coming here to really try to make this place, which ultimately transcends to this world, a better place too. But I've also been involved for a long time, over 30 years, with an organization called Facing History and Ourselves. I've been on the chairman a couple different times. And I don't want to talk too much about anything, but their essence of their organization is to teach teachers to be able to teach students about some of the atrocities that have taken place over history, whether it be the Armenian genocide, the Holocaust, slavery, and things like that. So our students can learn the sequence of events that might be taking place, so that maybe they can help avoid that. And the bottom line for that would be, rather than be a bystander, they should be an upstander, which means take charge, see what you can do to kind of change it, so that we don't go into these bad places that human nature maybe has taken us in the past. And lastly, I'll tell you that I'm now chairman of some organization called the Jewish Community Partners. Haven't been involved a lot with Jewish organizations for the last 5 to 6 years or so, but it's something that I'm very proud of my heritage as a Jewish person, and want to make sure that I'm helping within that area too. And because I also know that Jewish people on the whole want to be involved in their community. They want to make sure it's a better place to live also. And generally they'll, if given a chance, they'll help the community that they're in too.
So Marty, I just think that is really special. Like I said, when I met you, I had a perception, oh, he owns a wealth management program. And then I learned, I was like, he's doing so much more in the community. But I do love that your story, your journey has played a role in your heart and your passion, and also your wisdom and insight to be able to give back. And that means a lot to me personally. And I know it makes a big difference in the community. But I also know, again, back to where you started as a child, and you said you sort of had to be parent to your parents. And I know a lot of people end up in this, young people end up in that situation for different reasons. I mean, similar reasons, and also for different reasons. But because of that, you did a lot of growing up on your own, right? And you paved your way, and you made yourself successful, or you got to the point where you are through the experiences that you had. But you could have made a lot of excuses, and that takes me to the second part of a success system, is eliminating excuses. People totally would have understood if you did not become the person that you are today because of your background. Talk about some of the excuses that you had to eliminate to get to where you are today.
I don't know if it's something to brag about, but I think my making me laugh about this. My parents, to survive, I think they had to repress a lot, and it's something. Repression is something you don't want to do a lot of, because I think it just kind of hides issues that manifest itself later on in life. But I think that when I saw what I consider to be some issues or areas of concern, I just said, all right, I'm not going to pay much attention to the problem parts of it. I'm just going to forge ahead and say, all right, I'm going to go do this. My goal is to do this, whatever that is. And just say, forget about the excuses like you're talking about. I wasn't going to deal with the parts that it may go wrong. I was just going to say, this is what I need to do, and I'll figure out along the way to adjust. And again, there hadn't, all these things. It may seem easy to a lot of people, but as you know, in life, it's nothing's that easy. Uh, Things that have made it easier for me, though, I think, are the relationships that I've been able to have with some incredibly close family, close friends, all along the way that, for the most part, have your back when there's issues. Because one thing I've tried to do, of course, is to really be a good friend to others. And Summer, I know you have been also over your years and with your family and your close friends, because all of us go through things that are difficult to deal with, and without support from those closest to you, and the reason they're closest to you is because you've also been close to them and been supportive of them during times of need too. So I don't dwell on possible excuses for not trying to do something. I just think, all right, this is what needs to be done, whether it be best for people I'm around, for the community, for me, and say, this is what I think it's important, and just kind of be focused towards that direction.
I love it, Marty, and I definitely see that in you, and it falls right in line with the so what mindset. It's just like, okay, it's all these things and all these reasons why you couldn't, or maybe even shouldn't, but so what? And you focus on the solution and just recognize the need and made it happen, and that's what you've done. Well, the third part of the so what success system is calculating choices, calculated choices. Talk about some of the calculated choices that you've made on your journey.
Well, help clarify that question for me just a little bit better,
Sure.
please.
What are some of the choices that you've made? Your choice to move back to Memphis after college, your choice to start dating again, your choice to pursue entrepreneurship, any of the choices that you've made, where you could have gone another direction.
It's a great question, first of all, and I will tell you that about 3 or 4 months ago, I was with a couple that I've known this woman since the seventh grade, and she's very confident. She was asking me, so Marty, how are you doing? Knowing that my wife had passed away, and I was trying to see another woman, right, or dating another woman at the time. And so we're at the dinner table, And I just answered it this way. I said, I'm looking at my life from right now and looking in arrears. And I'm realizing that I should and I do consider myself a very, very lucky person. And I also know that I've made a lot of choices along the way. And um, I could analyze the different choices. I could go back and think of 1,000 different choices that any of us make along the way. And there's always those forks in the road. And I've learned that one shouldn't dwell too much at all, and hardly at all in some cases, other than to learn some things about yourself, about the choices that you did make. But what I got to was I just said to this woman, I said, I feel like I'm about the luckiest and person I could ever be. So therefore, all the choices that I had made in the past, I know that some of them were kind of wrong at the beginning, but somehow I must have adjusted because I don't think I could have been at this wonderful place right now in my life without making pretty good choices. But again, realizing that nobody can make all good choices. We just want to be smart enough at the beginning, and we're trying to make a choice to be analytical about it to some degree. Sometimes you have to just follow your heart and feel like that's the best way to do it. And then realizing that sometimes things don't really work out best on the short term. But it's important, as you said earlier, is that we have to overcome some of those obstacles that do take place. And with others, is the way I look at it, make our lives better and make everybody's life better.
Right, right. And and the same thing like you said, sometimes our choices are not the best ones, but we make the best of those choices.
That's a good way to
And I
say it,
think
yes.
you've definitely demonstrated that and continue to demonstrate it. Well, Marty, you definitely have shown me through our personal relationship, and through this interview, you know how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. And I can see how I just love, honestly, how deep and reflective you are at the same time, how fun and no nonsense that you are. I really, really appreciate that. You are definitely a success man. But what would you say is your personal definition of success?
It's really, I think, the love that you feel from others. I feel like I must have done something right if others seem to appreciate and love me for what I am. And I think many a person has said that if you're basically at your deathbed and you're probably not going to be thinking about a lot of material wealth or anything like that are that important to you. It may be that you wish you had more time, but the reality is, I think it's those people around you who care about you. If you look around, I think that's when you'll know that your success is real at that time.
I love that answer. Okay, last question for you. What is one piece of advice that you would give someone watching this who wants to be successful, however they define success, but they encounter obstacles? What's one piece of advice you would give?
I think to find others to help. To be, I don't think we can do it ourselves. I mean, this world that we live on, it's so difficult in so many different ways. And I know that I couldn't have been quasi successful without the help of many others along the way. And again, it stems back to my parents for giving me that loving, unconditional love. And along the way, others that looked at me and said, maybe I can help this person out or give advice to this person. So again, don't be afraid to ask advice. Don't be afraid to get others involved on your journey. And of course, uh, don't expect anybody to be on your journey unless you're part of their journey too, to some degree. So it's like have a team. That's I've been very, very fortunate to have really, really nice people that have been part of my team. And right now, I share a group of 6 other college buddies that we've known each other since we're like 18 years old, and we are with each other every year in some way, if not more than once. And we get on Zoom calls together, and we've gone from total immaturity to more maturity right now as we laugh about it and as we cry about it with certain things that take place with each other. But bottom line, we're extremely supportive of each other. And it's something that all of us need, is to have your team, make it through and provide whatever measurement of success you think is important.
I think that's powerful. So Marty, thank you so much for sharing so much of what you just said. I know it's going to really bless a lot of people. Even that last nugget that you just gave, even though I don't even think you were trying to give a nugget when you said you had your guys and you even cry together if you need to. I think that that's so necessary for us and for people, for men, to embrace being able to do that. So thank you for that, Marty. Thank you for everything that you shared. Thank you for friendship. And I'm really grateful to have you in my life, and I'm so glad you did this interview.
I'm grateful to have you in my life too, Summer. Thank you so much for what you do.
All right, thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.